Greetings, youngsters. It's time for another edition of Chai with Randy. Randy Jimmy James Bowles here, broadcasting from Seattle, Washington, with another Grateful Dead story for you. Get your chai made. I use soy milk and water and stash tea chai, tea bags, and a little bit of raw unfiltered honey. And tonight I'm having it in a very nice Italian coffee house cup. These are very popular in Seattle, this design, this motif. It's also very hot. The handle is not good. It transfers heat too well. That's probably why I always drink it out of my other cups, but I don't want to bore anyone out there. And on that note, I've added something new to the background, or someone, I should say. Excuse me, Peace Bear. That's Peace Bear. Peace Bear was born, as they say, born at the Beanie Baby. I don't want to say company, but company in 1996. Now, I've had that one for about 10 years, and the funny thing is, well, I've had lots of Peace Bears over the year. I get them, give them away, sell them, get them again. I got that one at a Seattle Japanese Cultural Festival, the Cherry Blossom Festival, for $2. And Peace said, "Oh, please, please, you must take me home with you." So I did. That's that part of the story. I am going to read you a story about the dead, but before we get any further, people have been asking me, what is the safety pin for in your beret? And yes, this is a beret. I collect berets. I've got about 11. The, the big safety pin means that I'm a safety zone for you. If anyone's bothering you or anyone, if somebody says, "Oh, I'm going to bother that person because they're different, I'm going to bother them," well, I will try to put myself between so that, I'm 74. I've had a great life. If I need to protect somebody, I'm willing to do that, including you. The other thing is, I have on my Experience Music Project ultra fancy polo shirt. This isn't just your regular one. This is the special ones that cost more money, but I got it for free for being a good boy in 2000 when I worked at Experience Music Project. And I've never worn it. I've tried it on, but I've never worn it. This is the longest I've ever worn it. I think it's not my style in the least. But this was what I was wearing when I met Bob Weir. I can only imagine how impressed or not he was when he saw me in this garish red polo shirt. But I did win it. So I can't throw it away or recycle it. I won it. So, and it's part of my EMP musical archive. Are you ready for a story? This is a story about meeting Bob Weir at Experience Music Project around 2003. I'm going to read it to you from my blog. Yes, I am. My face is going to enlarge a little bit. You can close your eyes if you want, or you can stare at me, whatever you like. I'm going to read it, though, right off the screen. The title is "I Helped Make Bob Weir's Day, an Experience Music Project Tale." Now let me have a quick sip of chai, and you take one too. Ah, it's so delicious. By the way, a little bit on my lip here. You can go to my blog site. I will give you a link down below in the comments. And then you can look at my story and you can see a picture of the event poster for the event I'm going to reference here. You can see a picture of Experience Music Project that I took myself with the Space Needle reflected on the surface of Experience Music Project's extremely beautiful outer skin. There's a picture of the folk singer Odetta, picture of Bob Weir, picture of the flying eyeball, or actually in this case, surfing eyeball. So I will give you a link to that, but I'm going to read it to you now, and I hope you enjoy it. I've been getting lots of views of my other Grateful Dead stories, and I appreciate that, and I thank you. So once again, the title. I helped make Bob Weir's day, an experience music project tale. And note, there is a real kicker at the end of this story. It seems like when I write about the Grateful Dead, the story always has a kicker. Stay tuned. On May 23rd, 2001, at Experience Music Project, where I was a guest services representative, a jack of all trades, my supervisor gave me an assignment that was out of the norm. He stationed me outside the private/employee entrance and had me act as security officer for a day. I was told to sit in a chair and to just make sure everything was copacetic. Well, everything was always copacetic at that entrance. But my first surprise, after about an hour, bassist Rob Wasserman showed up in a Jaguar town car. I recognized him from photos, plus I had heard there was going to be a Woody Guthrie tribute concert at EMP that very night, which Rob would be part of. He wasn't talkative at all, which was fine. I contacted security control, and they buzzed him into the building. Soon after, the great folk singer Odetta showed up. She looked like a queen, just beautiful, and she was so very sweet. I think she showed up in a taxi cab. We had a nice short visit later on in the day, by the way. 3 other performers eventually arrived: Ramblin' Jack Elliott, the roots rock singer Jimmy LaFave, and Butch Hancock of the Flatlanders, a band he formed with Joe Ely and Jimmy Dale Gilmore in Texas. Ramblin' Jack was a little cantankerous, but harmless. Somewhere amidst those entertainers, the Grateful Dead's Bob Weir showed up. He exited his ride and walked over to me. I greeted him. He was silent. I called the guards to have them buzz the door open. Well, it took several tries to get a response. Finally, one answered, and I had to keep saying to him, "Bob Weir is here. Bob Weir is here." Because he didn't buzz Mr. Weir in. He kept saying, "Just a minute." Well, I was feeling awkward because Bob was just standing there staring at the door, not speaking, waiting to get moving. Finally, the guard called me and said he would buzz us both in. I was needed to escort Bob into the museum because an artist wrangler was not available. We walked in while Bob still kept very quiet. He hadn't even really looked at me. So I dropped my little line on him. "By the way, a friend of yours works here and he told me to say hi." Bob seemed to come alive and said, "Oh, who?" I said, "Shepherd Griffin. He wants you to look him up." Bob's eyes lit up and he broke into a big smile. He thanked me and went on his way. He truly seemed happy, as if his day had been made. That was the extent of my encounter with Bob. He started out very, very low-key and private, but at the end he was obviously in better spirits. Well, at the end of my shift, I went to the staff room to change out of my fine EMP polo shirt, not actually fine, and there was Shepherd Griffin. He thanked me for steering Bob to him. He said they had a great visit. It had been a while, and they were really happy to see each other. Shepherd is Rick Griffin's son. Rick was the great poster LP cover artist, responsible for some of the great art which will be forever associated with the Grateful Dead, including the cover of my favorite Dead LP, Wake of the Flood. Shepherd was a young, blue-haired, slacker artist pest, but a sweetheart. I was one of his best friends at EMP. He always had a sketchbook with him in which he sketched fantasy-style art. He definitely had talent. He told me he was practically raised by the Grateful Dead. It was a good day at EMP. Here is the subsequent kicker. Now, I wrote that story a while back, and I learned something later on. I read you the story verbatim as it was written, but now here comes well, you could call it a correction, but I prefer to call it a kicker. When I posted the story, I was operating under the true belief that Shepard, Bob Weir's young friend, was Rick Griffin's son. He said he was, and no one contradicted that story until I heard from a couple of people years later, in September of 2014, and they said Shepard would have been a stepson. A stepson. Well, I left my story as is because that fact doesn't really change anything. You know what I know. Shepard says he was Rick's son. He was probably a stepson. All I know is that Bob's eyes lit up when I told him Shepard was there, waiting to visit with him. Thank you, everybody. Blessings to all of you. Have some more chai with Randy real soon. Stay safe out there. Be good to yourself and to each other. Peace and love, and bye-bye.